Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3853BN. Today's date is March 4th, 2026, and the title of the episode is The Plan Was Presented to We the People. All people had to do was look and see. Central banks cause inflation, and that is a threat to you, your savings account, your retirement. Ask yourself an honest question. Does your dollar go as far as it did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even last year? So what does the next decade look like for you and your savings? If your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's time to rethink your strategy. Gold has kept up with inflation and in many periods outpaced it. My friends at Noble Gold Investment specialize in helping people protect their wealth with physical gold and silver. Whether you're rolling over an IRA or making a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process and makes it very simple. No pressure, just education and experience. Right now, all new qualified accounts will receive a free 1/10 of an ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. Visit X22Gold.com. That is X22Gold.com, and discover how easy it is to protect your financial future. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see the plan is moving forward. Now, I know a lot of people are out there saying there is no plan. This is just all willy-nilly. He's just doing whatever. This has been a plan from the very, very beginning. Since he actually came down the escalator, it was planned out. Now, yes, he's using game theory because, again, if the deep state players go left, he needs to push him back to the center, move him to the right, or do whatever he needs to do. And once again, we were told about all of this. And yes, if we're going to take back the country, we're going to take back control of what the deep state players have done over this long period of time, there had to be a plan in place. You think Trump went into Iran or Venezuela? You think he just woke up one day, so let's just go in there and let's, whatever happens, happens. I don't know. Just use whatever we got. You make the decision. We'll just do it. Or do you think over the long period of time, they already had this planned out? This is the operation we're going to use. This is the equipment we're going to use. This is how many days it's going to take. This is what we're going to hit. This is what we're going to remove. This is how we're going to structure all of this. Remember, he's a builder. He's a planner. He doesn't do things willy-nilly. Now, the optics are very good because, of course, people are out there saying he has no idea what he's doing. He's listening to people that have no idea or they have an agenda. Yeah, he might listen. But again, he's the ultimate person who's going to make the decision on all of this and plan it all out. He might listen, and this is what a good leader does. They listen to everyone. Let me hear what you have to say. Doesn't mean they go along with it. And then they make their own decisions with all the data that they have. I do believe he does this in his business, actually. And any good leader would do this. So for those people that think, oh, war is bad. Yes, war is bad. But again, if we're going to take back the country, if we're going to set the world free, we must undo what the deep state has done. Do you think we could just talk nice to them? Do you think we just could say, hey, please don't do that? Hey, you know what? I know the CIA and you've been working together to traffic women and traffic drugs and oil. Can you stop doing that? You see, that doesn't work. It's not reality. So when people say, oh, we shouldn't be at war. No, we're at war with the deep state players. We're at war with everything that they put in place to make our lives miserable so they can control what we're doing, so they can push their agenda. And from the very, very beginning, we were told all about this. We were told about a plan. Actually, if you look at the Q drops, and I'm not looking at it very specifically or going deep into them, if you just step back and you take a 40,000-foot view, we were told there was going to be a great awakening where people were going to see the truth, where people were going to start to see what was really going on, and they were going to be able to think logically and make their own decisions. We were told about the fake news, how they put out fake stories, how they were controlled by the CIA. We were told that. We were told about later on there were going to be fake influencers that were all for Trump, that were going to go against Trump. We were told about that. We were told about how important the border was, how important the wall going up on the border was, how they used the border to usher in children and drugs and terrorists. We saw it with our own eyes. We were told about the drug cartels. We were told about the pedo networks. We were told about Epstein. We were told about all the fraud and corruption in this country. We were told about ISIS. We were told about what was going on in Syria, North Korea, Iran, Israel, Ukraine, China, Russia. We were told about the Five Eyes, how the fake ally leaders were working with the deep state players to spy on the American people and spy on the president. We were told about the military industrial complex. We were told about how bad the Clintons were and how they were running their scams, and the Clinton Foundation, how they were in line with the Epsteins. We were told about Podesta. We were told about Obama, how he was the architect of spying on Trump, pushing the Russia hoax. How Obama continually went after Trump with impeachment number 1, number 2, where he was behind Biden, controlling the administration. How Obama, all roads lead to Obama. We were told about the infiltration from within. We were told about the 16-year plan. We were told how they wanted to bring us to war. We were told about the central bank digital currency. We were told about how they distributed uranium 1 to all the different countries to start what? World War III. We were told about COVID, what it was used for, why they released it, who released it, how the everyday person wouldn't be affected, how hydroxychloroquine could act as a vaccine. We were told about cyber attacks, which I do believe are coming. We were told about Antifa, who controls Antifa. We were told about election rigging. We were told how they cheated, how they used the mail-in ballots. We were told that we caught them in the act. We were told how important voter ID was and why they never wanted it. We were told about the Federal Reserve, on how we need to remove the Federal Reserve, restructure it into the Treasury. We were told that, yes, arrests were going to come. We were told about justice in the end. We were told that we were going to take down the Democrats, the entire party. They were going to cease to exist the way we know them today. That we were going to bring down the entire temple around the deep state players. We were told we were going to end the endless lies, endless wars, endless inflation, endless printing, endless oppression, endless subjugation, endless surveillance. Who's putting an end to the endless? Trump is. This is the plan. We were told about this a long time ago. Now, the specifics of what was going to happen, nobody's going to reveal that, hey, by the way, you know what we're going to do? We're going to attack Iran on this date, this month, and this is how we're going to. Why would they do it? But overall, we were told all of these things were going to happen. To do what? To take back control of this country and take back control of the world, because it's not just this country, it's the world. We must remove these people first. We must give the power back to the people of all these different countries that were taken over. We must remove the threat. We must do all these things. The plan was delivered. If you looked at it and you stepped back and you saw it for what it was, that was the plan. We were told about the military industrial complex. We were told about all of this. And what is Trump doing? He's removing it. Maybe not the way you want to remove it, where you say, hey, let's not have war. You know, that's a bad thing. No, we need to remove these people. They're not going to go quietly into the night. It's like going after a criminal. Think about ICE right now. Let's just use a very simple example. ICE goes after a criminal, a rapist, a terrorist, a drug. Do they just say, oh, I give, or do they run? Or do they fight back? Do they use weapons? Do they try to get away? What do you think the deep state players are doing right now? They're going to fight to the very, very end. And we know that Ukraine is one of the hot points. We know Iran was one of the hot points. We know Venezuela was one of the hot points. We've known this for a very long time. This is why it's being done. Actually, if you listen to Trump's speech before 2016, he lays it all out. He tells you exactly what needs to be done to remove the deep state players. And yes, did Trump try to do it the nice way? Of course he did. He says, listen, just do the right thing. He does this multiple times. Just do the right thing. Let's just have negotiations. Let's have peace. Let's talk about it. But again, they do not want to talk about it. And he gives them a chance. He says he shows them he means business. And when enough is enough, what happens? He goes, all right, I gave you the chance. You didn't want to do it this way. So we're going to have to do it the hard way. And I'm going to have to show you that, hey, we're not kidding around anymore. That is what he's doing. This is not a war back in Bush's time. It's not a war back in Clinton's time. It's not a war like Obama. Those were basically put on wars for the people. And they basically drag them out, pretending everyone was stronger, everyone had the upper hand, everyone was better than the U.S. Trump is showing you very easily, if you have a plan and you go after the weapons, you go after the ballistic missiles, you start from the outside, you work your way in, you make them use all of their weapons, deplete their weapons, what happens? You maintain control. And this is exactly what is happening. He did it with Venezuela. He did it with Iran. You know what's next? Ukraine is next. He gave Zelensky a chance. Actually, why do you think he called him P.T. Barnum? He gave Zelensky, the EU, and the fake allies. And when I say fake allies, I'm not talking about the people of France. I'm not talking about the people of England. I'm not talking about the people of Spain. I'm not talking about the people of Germany. I'm talking about the fake installed ally leaders who sit there and say, hey, we're the allies, until Trump does something that the deep state players don't like and the allies don't like. Then all of a sudden they say, well, we're not your allies anymore because we don't like what you're doing. But once again, when we talk about a plan, Trump has always had a plan. And he planned out Iran. He planned out Venezuela. He planned everything out from the very beginning. Because how else do you get control of everything? You just can't wing it. It doesn't work. Just like if you tried to build a skyscraper, you don't say, hey, I don't care where you put the wires, the plumbing. I don't care what kind of concrete metal you use. I don't care if you weld the girders. It makes no difference to me. Just put the building up. Hopefully it goes along very, very nicely and the whole thing doesn't collapse. No, from the very beginning, he knew what he had to do. He knew the plan. It was revealed to us. Everything that's happening, everything that's being done, we were told about. It might not be on your timeline. It might not be part of your expectations. You might not like it. But again, we were told that this was going to happen, and it's happening right now. And every day that passes, more and more happens. And yes, the wheels of justice, removing the deep state and everything else takes time. It doesn't happen with a snap of a finger. And you could see every step of the way who keeps winning. Trump. I mean, look at the elections in Texas. Trump endorsed people, and those endorsed people, what did they do? They won. Crockett is out. Green is out. Crenshaw is out. What do you think is going to happen across the country? It's going to be devastating. Now, again, everything's not perfect. Everything's not 100%. We're still fighting a war. But you can see at this point in time, Trump has the people. And he knows that this war has to end in a very short period of time. This, we should say it's an event where he's removing the deep state, the regime in Iran, so they can't do us harm. Because again, we don't have troops on the ground. We're not in Iran. Congress has not declared war. So basically, he's removing the deep state, just like he removed the individual in Venezuela that was blocking everything and shut down the drug traffickers, human traffickers. They couldn't deliver anything. Nothing was moving. He shut it all down. And this is what Trump is doing in Iran. So again, he knows that, okay, from the internal polling, from everything else, that this mission has to be completed in a very short period of time. This is why he said, hey, we're going to be finished with this in about 3 to 4 weeks. Now, how would he know this unless he planned it? Unless he went through all the scenarios? Unless he understood that, hey, I'm going to get help maybe from Kurdish soldiers. Actually, he did this back in Syria, was it 2017? He made a deal with Kurdish soldiers to assist. Now there's news about Kurdish soldiers going into Iran, assisting on the ground. That's interesting. So this was planned from the very beginning, and the time frame was planned, and how to eliminate everything that Obama and the rest put into place. And this is why Starmer's sweating. This is why Macron's sweating. This is why Spain turned their backs on the U.S. This is why Ursula von der Leyen is panicking like we've never seen before. This is why Viktor Orban's clapping. So you could see that, yes, this was the plan from the beginning. And every step of the way, it had to wake the people up. They had to make the people understand that, look what our country, look what it was, look what they did, look at the criminals, all this stuff that we told you about, it's real. It's not made up. It's not a conspiracy. And when you look at what happened with the Clintons, no, you're not going to have arrests when you have a congressional hearing. The same thing that's going on now with Tim Walz. Yes, you got to get him on record. You got to ask him questions. You have to have him lie to you. And then you use that later on. That's the strategy. Over and over and over. Because you have to remember, there are cases that are being built against these people, and you want the evidence. You see, if we're going to do it right, and we have one chance to do it, we might as well sit back and collect all the lies that they're telling under oath and use it against them later on. That is what we see happening right now. And when you look at the Clintons, Paul Sperry says, here's a sampling of deposition whoppers from the Clintons. Bill swears he thought all the young women flying with him on Epstein's plane were flight attendants. Hillary swears she never knew Epstein gave her Senate campaign $20,000 until I learned this in preparation for the testimony. Ghislaine chipped in another $2,300, by the way. Bill swears the young woman seen in the photo massaging his back was a stranger who approached him and offered to help work out a knot in his neck. I mean, I've had that happen every single time I go to the airport. Strange women just come up to me and say, hey, listen, it looks like your neck is tight. Can I rub it? I mean, come on. Hillary argues there are millions of men like her husband, swimming in a pool or sitting in a hot tub with random girls who do that without any improper behavior. Of course, they aren't in pools and hot tubs with Epstein's girls. To suggest otherwise is so speculative, almost like a vast right-wing conspiracy. So once again, they're being caught in all these lies because what do you think is going to come out later on? Oh, the evidence that isn't in the Epstein files, it's most likely someplace else that's going to be used against them. And think about what the House Oversight Committee is going to do right now. They're going to bring in other people. Kaneko the Great put this out and said, the House Oversight Committee is requesting transcribed interviews with 7 new individuals as part of the panel's Epstein investigation. Bill Gates, May 19th. Catherine Rumler, April 21st. Ted Waite, April 16th. Doug Bann, May 5th. Leon Black, May 13th. Leslie Groff, June 9th. Sarah Kellen, June 3rd. And Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, he's going to voluntarily testify before the House Oversight Committee over ties to Jeffrey Epstein in the next coming weeks. So he's going to testify. And think about why they wanted everything out in the Epstein files, because a lot of people's names were mentioned, even though they had nothing to do with it. Just like Whoopi Goldberg was mentioned in it and many others. Now, maybe she did have something to do with it, but again, everyone, it was just blanket names. So now all these people are in the hot seat. They did this on purpose. You remember, Trump's name was also mentioned, but the other part was he's the one who actually gave the evidence to the police, to the prosecutor, and actually allowed them to arrest and prosecute Epstein. Then Trump was the one who said, yes, let's be transparent. Let's let everyone see the documents. It was under his administration. It wasn't under Biden. It wasn't under Obama. It wasn't under Clinton's. All of it happened under Trump. That should tell you everything you need to know. And you could see, slowly but surely, all this information, all the different pieces are starting to come together, and they're building upon each other. And again, if we're going to go after these people, these very, very dangerous people, we want to make sure that they don't have the ability to use foreign countries to attack us, either from the outside or from the inside. This is why Trump is going around the world and dismantling their system. This is why he's removing their ability to do us harm, because everybody wants accountability. Everybody wants justice. Everybody wants arrests. So if you want arrests, then you need to make sure that no one can plant a dirty nuke in this country. You need to make sure that no one can bring us to war. You need to make sure that they don't have the sleepers in this country. Remember, it's infiltration from within. So if we're going to go after the main people, we need to make sure that all their pawns, their foot soldiers, are not ready to protect them. Trump is removing their foot soldiers, the pawns, so we can get to the kings and the queens, so we can bring them down. That's what this is all about. And yes, this was planned a long time ago. Maybe you didn't know about the specifics, but what person's going to tell you exactly what they're going to do and how they're going to do it? It makes no sense. So we always knew we had to go after Iran. We always knew we had to go after Ukraine. We always knew that we had to build the wall. We always knew we had to deport the people. We always knew we were going to use the Insurrection Act. We always knew there was Epstein and the pedo network. We always knew all of these things. We just didn't know how Trump was going to approach it. We didn't know the time frame. We didn't know the how, when, where. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Some of the events haven't occurred yet. So I do believe when you really step back, we knew all the different parts of it. We just didn't know the time frame for all of it. And now each thing is coming true because now what does Trump have? He has the leverage. That is what he has. Now he has the ability to do this. Did he have the ability in his first term? No, that was the preparation phase. And basically, they told us these are the things that we need to do. These are the things that we're going to be looking at. These are the things that the deep state players have done. This is how their rigged election system works. This is what they did with the Russian collusion. This is what they did with the impeachment. This is what they did with Iran. This is what they did with Ukraine. This is what Biden did with Ukraine. We were told all of these things. So yeah, there was a plan, and it's still operational right now. And if you look at what's going on, you could see that U.S. Southern Command, they went into Ecuador. So U.S. and Ecuadorian forces, they launched an operation against narco-terrorist organizations in Ecuador. Why would Trump and team be going after the cartels, the narco-terrorists? Because who are they in line with? The deep state players. Do they use the cartels to do their dirty work? Absolutely. Do they use MS-13 gang members to do their dirty work? Do they put out hits on people and have them take care of it? Of course they do. Why do you think Trump is getting rid of all these people around the globe? He's bringing stability to the world by wiping out the deep state players, their foot soldiers, their pawns. That is what is happening. And what's very interesting when you look at Iran and you look at the deep state players, the Ds, you can see that they were all in line with Iran, with what they were doing. Libs of TikTok put this out and said, the imam in Michigan just called the U.S. evil and held a memorial service for terror leader Khamenei. Who's Kamala's friend? Oh, that's right, the imam. So who else was there? John Kerry. And remember, Muslims do not immigrate to Western countries to flee Islamic countries. They immigrate to Western countries to make Western countries Islamic countries. And I think we see this. All you got to do is look at Minnesota. All you got to do is now look at New York. All you got to do is look at California, look at Oregon, look at all these different places. And every time they raise their flag, it should tell you everything you need to know. But as we are now fighting against Iran and winning bigly, Cynical Publius pretty much lays it out and says, listen, if we were back to the time of World War II, and the Democrat media complex was in charge of the news back then, this is what the stories would be like. And this is what Cynical Publius says. If the modern Democrat media complex existed on June 7, 1944, here would be the headline. Thousands of American servicemen killed on Omaha Beach after U.S. forces failed to kill every living Nazi before the landings. War is hell. Casualties happen. Right now, we are experiencing the most flawlessly executed U.S. military operation since Washington crossed the Delaware. But the American-hating fiends at the Democrat media complex are determined to make you believe otherwise. Don't believe them. The DOW under Pete Hegseth is the most effective and lethal combat force in U.S. history. And basically what Trump and team is showing you is that everything that Obama and the deep state players, the fake news, everything that they told you that Iran is too powerful, ISIS is too powerful, we just can't defeat them. We don't have the technology, we don't have the ability, we don't have the forces to do this. It was a lie to make you believe that we're weak. Trump is going to wrap this up in Iran in a very, very short period of time. And CENTCOM says that it destroyed Iran's most operational submarine, and it has a hole in the side of it right now. And basically, they're pretty much removed, I think, all of their Navy at this point in time. And Iran now is struggling. Eric Doherty put this out and said, look at Tehran. It's getting hammered by the U.S. and IDF. Trump and Pete Hegseth were not kidding around. And when you look at Iran, you can see that what they have is being depleted. Not what the U.S. has. What they have is being depleted. Bill Mitchell put this out and said, Iran's missile barrages are suddenly drying up, and the reason will shock you. Every time one of their launchers fires, it lights up like a Christmas tree on American infrared satellites and radar. U.S. systems detect the thermal plume and trajectory in seconds. That data goes right to strike aircraft, drones, and long-range weapons for a rapid takedown. The mullahs are figuring out that launching a missile means losing the launcher minutes later. This brutal reality is forcing them to hold back. Smart deterrence from superior American power is working exactly as it should. So think about it. Do you think Trump and team, you think they already knew that this was going to happen? Of course they did. They knew exactly how they were going to take these things out. They knew that once they fired, they'll know exactly where they are. And this won't be a problem whatsoever. But Ryan Scavenger put this out and said, this is what Secretary of State Marco Rubio was talking about when he explained why the U.S. needed to strike Iran now. Iran was building its ballistic missile stockpile so rapidly that the U.S. was not going to be able to manufacture enough interceptors to counter them. The result is that Iran would be free to pursue their nuclear weapons program because the West would not be able to attack Iran without sustaining serious damage from Iranian ballistic missiles. That is what they were trying to do, is they put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they can inflict on the region would be so high that no one could do anything about their nuclear program or their nuclear ambitions. So basically, they were on course to build so many missiles that the U.S. wouldn't be able to stop them all. And basically, if you really think about it, they would then proceed to their nuclear program. They would create their nuclear weapon, and Iran or Ukraine with Russia, or maybe even North Korea, but I think North Korea is kind of dead in the water at this point. These countries would be used to bring us to World War III because that was their end goal. And I think Trump, when he got all the data, started to realize, okay, listen, we'll try negotiations. I will show them that I mean business, but let's plan this out throughout the whole year. Let's come up with a plan. Let's analyze them. Let's see what they're doing. Let's make a bombing run within Iran. Let's see what they do to defend themselves. And they collected data during this period of time. And they came up with a plan. They didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, by the way, what do you think? Should we push the button? Should we attack? What? No, they came up with a plan. They knew exactly what they were doing. And when you look at the ballistic missile launches by Iran during the first 4 days, it looks like it's not going up. It's going down. Ask yourself a simple question. Why? So day 1, 350, day 2, 175, day 3, 120, day 4, 40, day 5, 40. Drone swarms, day 1, 294, day 2, 541, day 3, 200, day 4, 85, day 5, 45. And this is confirmed by General Dan Kane, and Eric Doherty put this out. He reveals that the Iran's ballistic missile shots fired have plummeted 86% since day 1. One-way attack drones are down 73%. With the regime flailing, the U.S. is surging air superiority, a minus 23% decrease in just the last 24 hours. We will now, as the general says, expand inland, striking progressively deeper into Iranian territory, creating additional freedom of maneuver for U.S. forces. So basically, everything the deep state players have told us that we cannot fight Iran. They're too powerful. They have these advanced weapons. China gave them advanced weapons. Well, they're not really working, are they? Now, we could see that Trump, he's winning the war against Iran. The Ayatollah is already removed. And the bigger question is, will the people be able to take back Iran? Will the people regain control, and will they have elections? Which I do believe that is the goal of all of this. It's to give the power and return it to the people. And we could see that most likely this is going to happen because think about what Trump and the Patriots are doing right now. They are removing the entire structure of the Iranian regime, and they're making it possible for the people to take over and maintain control without removing the Iranian Guard, the Ayatollah, without removing their weapons, without removing their power. The people would not be able to maintain control. So Trump and the Patriots, they're letting the people know that the U.S. is backing them. The U.S. has their back. And I do believe this is going to push the Iranian people to have elections. And I do believe that is where all this is headed. And when you look at Kalshi says, and the question is asked, will Iran hold a presidential election? As of right now, it looks like a lot of people are saying before January 1st, 2027, 37%. Before July 1st, 2026, 14%. I do believe that these numbers are going to begin to change quite a bit. I think what's going to happen is more and more people are going to see that the people have the power and the people are going to have elections most likely this year. And remember, Kalshi is the first and only legal prediction market in the U.S. And they got approval from the federal government. And now people use these markets to make money from their opinion, knowledge, or hedge risks they face. And if you like to try Kalshi out, you can go to kalshi.com/X22 and you can get a free $10 credit when you trade $100. That is kalshi.com/X22, or you could just click the link in the description. Not at all. And that entire narrative right now is completely and utterly falling apart. Now, the other thing that's very interesting that has come out, and it looks like they're now saying that the Ayatollah's son now is going to be the supreme leader, which his days are going to be numbered right now. But Marin Nafal put this out and said, Iran's likely next supreme leader preaches resistance against the West. Here's how he lives. $40 million mansion on London's billionaire row. $300 million in gold and diamonds. Swiss bank accounts, banks in UAE, Syria, Venezuela, and Africa. Private jet helicopter fleet of Mercedes. Moved $328 million to Dubai via crypto in January alone. His wealth comes from taxing Iranian oil sold to China and India, while Iranian civilians suffer under the sanctions he helps perpetrate. Think about that for a second. So, again, dictators are going to be dictators, and that's pretty much what we see. Brian Cates says, a lot of folks out there in the world buying all the rogue regime propaganda for 47 years still do not grasp the brutal truth. Yes, the Ayatollah Khamenei was a brutal Islamic fanatic. All you have to do is read his writings to grasp that. But this guy was a freaking billionaire running an international overseas empire. He was a billionaire proxy threat that allowed the mix of over 24 nations to generate trillions of dollars for themselves over the past couple of decades containing the Iranian nuclear threat. It was all BS. Trump is giving it right up the ass to the city of London right now. Trump is blowing up all their pretenses, and that's exactly what he's doing. So once again, what is Trump doing? He's exposing the entire regime there, and he's removing it at the same time and exposing the fake ally leaders at the same time. But what's very interesting is that there is talk about Trump using Kurdish forces to go into Iran. Now, Trump did do this back in 2017 in Syria. So is he truly in talks with Kurdish forces? Will they be going into Iran? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe those are the ground troops that are going to be used to take control. That will be very, very interesting. But the other thing that's very interesting, why all this is going on, and we mentioned this in the economic report, is that out of Reuters, they're letting us know that U.S. banks are on high alert for cyber attacks as Iran war escalates. And when you go back in time and you listen to Klaus Schwab, and this is from 2021 when he said this, he let us know that, yes, the world is ripe for cyber attacks. Now, I do believe what Trump has done here with Iran, he has now moved up the timetable and actually kind of messed them all up, because I do believe they wanted to do this on their own timetable. But going after Iran, he's pretty much shutting down everything that they were going to try to do and then focusing pretty much everything onto Ukraine. So I do believe he's containing the whole thing and making sure he has control of what they're going to try to do, which I do believe is most likely some type of cyber attack. But I just want to go back in time to 2021 when Klaus Schwab actually told you what to expect, just like they did with COVID. Take a listen.
Impact. The implication is clear. A lack of cybersecurity has become a clear and immediate danger to our society worldwide. We have seen in the past few months, for example, ransomware attacks targeting hospitals, critical infrastructure, school systems, the power grid, and many other essential services. Citizens are feeling the repercussions of cyber attacks directly. Citizens are impacted by energy shortages, delayed medical treatment, and other effects this new breed of audacious cyber attacks causes. This is not a problem that is easily solved. Ransomware attacks are complex, and criminal enterprises are increasing their scale and impact. This highlights the need for a structured, multi-stakeholder, multilateral approach to secure our society against them. In this, we must all work together.
So that should tell you everything you need to know. So I do believe Trump and the Patriots, I think they know this. And every time they go into the different countries, every time they remove the deep state players, remove their foot soldiers, and actually force them into a position that they want them to be in, I do believe Trump is continually taking more and more control over the situation, because he knows what's coming. He knows there's riots coming. He knows most likely they're going to try to use cyber attacks. Most likely they're going to try to use a false flag to try to get us into war. I do believe Trump is trying to control everything that they're going to try to do in the end. And once again, you could see that Trump and team, they are basically removing the threat every step of the way. And before you know it, they won't have anything left. Actually, Secretary of War Hegza says the leader of the unit who attempted to assassinate President Trump has been hunted down and killed. Iran tried to kill President Trump, and President Trump got the last laugh. Absolutely. Well, think about what else Trump is doing right now. He's taking over all the choke points. John Conrad put this out and said, choke points are now more valuable than gold, the most valuable real estate on the planet. Under Biden, we lost the most important checkpoints in the world, the Suez Canal to the Houthis. We lost Gibraltar when woke politicians in the UK and Spain refused to allow ships to fuel there. We lost the Kerch Strait and Bosphorus to Russia. Trump is a real estate legend, and he came in swinging. Day one after the election, Argentina's president invited to Mar-a-Lago. This is not an active choke point today, but is the most important backup choke point for the U.S. Navy if the Panama Canal fails. He offered asylum to South Africans to put diplomatic pressure on that government. He appointed Lou Sola to chair FMC Gov and investigate choke point control. He dispatched diplomats when Norway refused to bunker Navy ships. He pressured the UK hard to secure the English Channel from migrant boats. He launched the largest carrier bombing offensive in naval history against the Houthis in Yemen and pirates in Somalia. He cut the steady flow of cash from USAID and Minnesota to Somali warlords. He demanded, and yes, failed, to end Russia-Ukraine war to reopen the Bosphorus to ships. I do believe that's coming soon. He went to Pete Hegseth and Secretary Rubio to secure the Navy's most important choke point, Panama. He dialed back rhetoric with China to keep goods flowing through the Taiwan Strait while improving security of the Luzon Strait. He got an icebreaker deal signed to secure the Bering Strait. He pushed back hard on the UN carbon tax that would have eliminated fueling options at choke points. He closed the GI-UK gap by playing hardball with Denmark over Greenland. He put the Indonesia president front and center at Davos, and just last week made a huge tariff deal to secure the Malacca Strait. Now he's laser focused on the most important energy choke point in the world, the Strait of Hormuz. In a world of geopolitical crisis, choke points are king, and Trump is the only leader on earth treating them like the strategic real estate they are. So you don't think this was all planned out? You don't think Trump planned this out knowing he had to get all the control back? Absolutely. And think about what's happening with China right now. China's largest shipping company just pulled out of the Gulf entirely. First Maersk, now Costco. The two biggest shipping operations on Earth have stopped moving cargo through the region. When global supply chains were disrupted before, they're now severed. Very, very interesting. And think about it. China, they lost Venezuela. They're going to lose Iran. Jets crashed in Pakistan. Air defense systems have failed. Can't invade Taiwan. Never won a war. HQ9 exploded in its own territory in Cambodia. African countries withdrew their decision to buy Chinese weapons. So who's winning this? Remember, China was supposed to be the next superpower. China, everything was supposed to be moved there. And that's why Europe was going to wind and solar. The United States was going to wind and solar. China was going to be the powerhouse. Trump now is reversing all of this. But you could see the fake allies out in France, out in the UK, and many other countries. They basically turned their back on the U.S. Macron says U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran are outside international law. Addressing the French public in a national broadcast, Macron said that while Iran bears primary responsibility for the situation, his government also disapproves of the strikes taken by the U.S. and Israel against the regime in Tehran. Very interesting. And then look at Starmer. Jim Ferguson put this out. Trump, very disappointed Starmer refuses support. President Trump has made it clear he is very disappointed in Keir Starmer after the UK refused to allow the use of British bases for its offensive actions against Iran. While American forces move decisively, Starmer is talking about unlawful actions and refusing to commit British support. At a moment when U.S. personnel, allies, and Western interests are under attack, Washington is acting. London is hesitating. The special relationship has always been built on strength, trust, and standing shoulder to shoulder in times of crisis. Right now, that unity looks fractured. Trump is signaling resolve. Starmer is signaling weakness. History will judge which approach carried weight when it mattered most. Stand by. And you can see Canada is pretty much doing the same thing. Now, they're put in a very, very difficult situation because, again, the people are watching this of their country and they're saying, what are you doing? The world is looking at them saying, what are you doing? So Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney says the United States and Israel have acted without engaging the United Nations or consulting allies, including Canada. First of all, the United States doesn't have to notify every single country. That is ridiculous. And the United States doesn't have to notify United Nations. We are a sovereign country. We don't have to notify everyone. And basically, Mike Cote translate what Mark Carney just said. Canada says, or Mark Carney says, America is no longer a reliable ally. We reaffirm our strategic partnership with China. Also, Canada, why didn't America share its secret military plans with us? And once again, you can see that these countries are having a major problem. And you can see the optics do not look good for them. And Trump, going back in time, already mentioned this, that again, these individuals that are put in these positions, remember, their poll numbers are very, very low. The people do not want them in place. And they do not represent the people. They represent their masters. This is what Trump is exposing right now. Hans put this out and said, something happened with this guy in China the other week. Until then, he'd been idiotically belligerent toward Trump and generally pathetic like all European elites. Then in China, unlike Carney, Starmer, Macron, and the rest who slobbered all over Xi, he at least held back a little. When he came back, he admitted the Europeans should be grateful for what Trump is doing, acknowledging they themselves don't even have the capacity to do it. And today at the White House, he's continued down this path, even calling out his supposed EU partner, Spain. Truly remarkable. And this is Merz of Germany. So that is very, very interesting that all of a sudden something changed in him and he pretty much went to the side of Trump. But the other three stooges, they're still beholden to their masters, the deep state players. And that should tell you everything you need to know. And think about what else Trump did. Yesterday, we mentioned that basically he's allowing ships to flow through the Strait of Hormuz. Actually, he's taking control over the Strait of Hormuz. Trump said, effective immediately, I've ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation, DFC, to provide at very reasonable price political risk insurance and guarantees for the financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy traveling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lines if necessary. The United States Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible. No matter what, the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. The United States' economic and military might is the greatest on earth. Now, think about this. You don't think Trump knew what was going to happen? You don't think Trump knew the Lloyd's of London was going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz and say, hey, we're not going to let any ships pass? You think Trump didn't plan out that he was going to use the Development Finance Corporation to do all of this? Very interesting. So what did Trump just do? Basically, he just destroyed the Lloyd's of London, the 300-year-old king of marine insurance. They canceled all wall risk coverage for ships through the Strait of Hormuz, and Keir Starmer let it happen. Trump said, screw them. We don't need them. We have the DFC, and we're going to insure every single ship, and we're going to escort them. Energy will flow. Seems like he just did this off the cuff, doesn't it? No, he knew exactly what was going to happen. Remember, he's been dealing with the deep state from the very, very beginning. He knows what they do. He's using game theory. He's bringing them down a path where he wants them to go. And once again, you can see that as these countries try to fight back against Trump, they always seem to lose. What's very interesting, and Hugh Hewitt put this out, Portugal is among our oldest, most reliable allies, with unbroken diplomatic relations since 1791. Spend your tourism dollars there and not Spain. Seriously, what is the point of having Spain in NATO? Portugal is allowing the U.S. to use their bases in their country. And remember, Portugal's right next to Spain. So once again, it looks like Spain is in trouble. And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, he has updated us on Operation Epic Fury. America and Israel have airspace dominance now. Basically, Iran is done. We control their airspace, and we're going deeper and deeper into the country. And basically, Pete Hegseth says we're not turning down, but we're ramping up. He says we're playing for keeps. Our war fighters have maximum authority granted personally by the president and yours truly. Our rules of engagement are bold, precise, and designed to unleash American power, not shackle it. This was never meant to be a fair fight, and it is not a fair fight. We are punching them while they're down, which is exactly how it should be. And he let everyone know we're fighting to win. Right now, the IRCG shut off all internet to the entirety of the country. They blind their people on purpose, just like they kill their own on purpose. Much was made of the volume of missiles Iran was able to shoot in the first few days. And sadly, as we projected, a few got through and killed 6 of our best, who will hopefully arrive home soon. We will avenge them, no doubt. The mission is very clear. President's moral clarity on Iran is so vital. Unlike the past, where vague red lines and endless negotiations let Iran fund terror and inch ever so slightly toward a bomb, President Trump sees the threat plainly and acts decisively. No more half measures, especially when Iran is at its weakest. And yes, we will continually punch until they say we give, and they allow the people to take back their country. Trump, he put this out and said the following. Since the launch of Operation Epic Fury, more than 9,000 Americans have safely returned home from the Middle East. If you are a U.S. citizen in the Middle East and you want to come home, please register with the State Department at step.state.gov. The department will identify where you are and provide travel options to you. We're already chartering flights free of charge and booking commercial options, which we expect will become increasingly available as time goes on. So right there, that tells you everything you know. Trump and team, they have the upper hand. It looks like we're way ahead of schedule. And I do believe soon we're going to see the next part of the plan, where the people are going to be taking back control of their country. Let's see if the Kurdish fighters actually enter the picture, which it's starting to look like they most likely will. But we'll have to see how that all plays out. Clandestine put this out and said, very important updates from POTUS. Trump highlights how Iran proved they were evil by sending strikes to many countries that were neutral. Iran just confirmed they were the problem child, preventing stability in the Middle East. Peace was never achievable so long as Khamenei and the radical Islamic regime were in power. And the only force that could pull this off with such precision is the U.S. military. It had to be done. So again, I know people wanted Trump just to take back the country and just arrest people. But again, they had their tentacles all across the globe. They were still funding their system. Trump needed to shut down the funding. He began by shutting it down with USAID. He began shutting it down with shutting down the NGOs, exposing the fraud in Minnesota and California and many other places. He exposed the money laundering with the 14 computers that Elon found in the Treasury. They shut those down. Then he shut down the funding coming out of Venezuela and the terrorist regime coming out of Venezuela. Now he's shutting down the terrorist training and the system that was created in Iran to spread terrorism throughout the Middle East. So these countries would never know peace. Remember, the deep state players, they were all in line with this. Trump is cutting off each part of the deep state system. You want accountability? You want justice? You want arrests? You want the economy to be great? Well, this is what needs to be done. Because remember, they established this over a long period of time. And yes, Trump knows that he can't allow this war to go on for 20 weeks, a year, or whatever. This is why from the very, very beginning, and I do believe him, that this war is going to last maybe 4-5 weeks at the most. And you could see that they set out a very strategic plan to make it so the Islamic regime within Iran can't do a damn thing. And what's very interesting, and Peter Seidelin, PhD, put this out, CBS poll, if Iran is done in 8 weeks, polling goes up by 52 points. If it drags longer, it plunges to -8. You think Trump, you think he looked at the polls? You think he knows this? Is this why he said 4 to 5 weeks at the most? Because again, this is 8 weeks from this poll. Do you think when it ends and we have complete and utter control of Iran and the people take back their country, do you think his poll numbers are going to skyrocket like we've never seen before? That's not even including what's going to happen to the economy. Because once Iran is set free, now we have control of the Strait of Hormuz, which means the flow of energy is going to come through to the entire world. Oil prices are going to drop like we've never seen before. And think about it. The polls, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later, they all point to what people are really interested in. And guess what it is? Is it the pedo network? Is it Epstein? Is it the border? No, it's the economy. Because again, everyone in this country is living their lives. Everyone is trying to make ends meet. Everyone is trying to get by. And what did Biden/Obama and everyone else before him in the central bank, what did they do? They destroyed this economic system. So what is Trump doing? He's going to make the economy absolutely incredible. And first, what does he have to do? He has to show everyone who's been taking our money for their own benefit, how the entire criminal syndicate system works, how they funnel the money throughout this country, throughout the world. And now people are starting to learn. And it looks like Tim Walz was testifying in front of Congress today. And what's very interesting is that Jim Jordan asked him a very simple question. The court said, listen, You need to stop the payments to feeding our future. And we need to look at this. But Tim Walz, he lied and said the court said, no, we can continue. And that's why he turned it on weeks later. And then the court issued a statement saying, no, we never said this. So Tim Walz lied in Congress. This is how you get them every single time. I think this was one of the big things. Yes, I know Nancy Mace says, define a woman. If you can't define a woman, you can't define fraud. But again, this was a court order. This is facts. This is not, you don't understand a woman, you don't understand fraud. Yes, that's great wordplay. But this is a fact. The court says, do not do this. Walz restarted it, then lied and said the court said he could do it. Then the court wrote a letter, and courts normally don't do this, saying, no, we told you to stop. We never said turn it back on. So why did he turn it back on? He just got caught in all of this. Trump, he put this out and said, House Oversight Committee concludes Tim Walz administration knew of fraud, failed to act. Yes, actually, he didn't just know about fraud. He was involved in the fraud. And now you could see it's all falling apart around him. And believe me, the system that the deep state players have set up across this country and across the world is much, much larger than Minnesota. But again, you got to bring in the people so they understand how this all works. And you could see that we had primaries yesterday, last night, and it looks like Crockett, who gave up her House seat to go for the Senate, it looks like she lost. And of course, now she's out there spewing the big lie. The Republicans cheated. Oh, she's denying democracy now. It's amazing how things happen. And Al Green, who says, black people rent apes, he also lost. All these people are losing step by step. And we'll be talking about the wins in just a minute. But look what just happened. Eric Doherty put this out. The U.S. Supreme Court unanimously strikes down activist judge attempts to shield migrants and deportations by simply claiming they'd face persecution if deported. So Trump won again, and SCOTUS says making these decisions regarding persecutions must be deferred to who? The immigration agencies within the Trump administration. The move makes it harder to protect so-called asylum seekers with exaggerated claims of persecution by leftist judges. So the leftist judges, the delay that they were trying to do, well, it looks like it's not working. Do we still have to get rid of these judges? Absolutely. How do we get rid of them? We got to impeach them. They must be removed. I do believe a lot of these judges, I wouldn't be surprised that once they see what happens during the midterms, when the D's lose the midterms and Trump and team and the Patriots take control, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these judges decide to retire. And all of a sudden, we have a lot of these positions opened up. So since this ruling came down, Joe Lane says, mass deportations incoming. All the Democrat roadblocks are being dismantled legally. Unanimous decision. Persecution is no longer an excuse to prevent deportation. Now, this doesn't mean that these same judges will try to use something else. Remember, they're all part of the lawfare system. So yes, the Supreme Court made this ruling. They will now regroup and try to use something else. This is why, in the end, we must get rid of them. And it looks like Dan Crenshaw, eye patch, he just suffered a massive defeat in his Texas primary. The voters of Texas' 2nd District overwhelmingly rejected the incumbent in favor of a true conservative challenger. And basically, this loss sends a thunderous warning to every single rhino still trying to cling to power. Remember, if you don't have the cheating system, you're not going to survive this. And think about what happened in Texas. Andy No put this out and says, a man behaving suspiciously was arrested outside of the Ken Paxton election watch party in Dallas. The Texas AG had recently announced an investigation into Dallas area cell of Antifa. Ammo was found in the suspect's car, which did not have plates. So it looks like someone was trying to remove Paxton to give, who is it, Cornyn, a little bit of a chance of winning. Now, it looks like Cornyn is in the lead right now, and we'll have to see how this all plays out because Trump said something very, very interesting, and we'll be talking about that in just a sec. But you could see Trump, he has endorsed something like 41 people, 41 candidates, and 41 candidates, they won their primaries on the first major primary night, which is absolutely incredible. But this is what Trump put out. The Republican primary race for the United States Senate in the great state of Texas, a state I love and won 3 times in record numbers, the highest vote ever recorded by far, cannot, for the good of the party and our country itself, be allowed to go on any longer. It must stop now. We have an easy-to-beat radical left opponent, and we have to totally focus on putting him away quickly and decisively. Both John and Ken ran great races, but not good enough. Now this one must be perfect. My endorsement within the Republican Party have been virtually insurmountable. It is such an honor to realize and say that almost everyone I endorse wins and wins by a lot, especially in Texas. I will be making my endorsement soon and will be asking the candidate that I don't endorse to immediately drop out of the race. Is that fair? We must win in November. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So let's see what happens, and let's see if that candidate drops out, since that candidate's not going to be endorsed. That's going to be very interesting. And like we said before, when we look at the midterms, what are the people most interested in? It's the economy. Rasmussen Reports put this out and said, out of the following issues, which will be the most important in determining your vote in the November's midterm election? All voters, 48% the economy, 17% immigration, 11% healthcare, 9% national security, 4% education, 3% taxes, 2% climate change, 1% energy policy. So the economy. Now, I remember Trump and Susie Wiles saying, we're going to focus on the economy. You think they know? Absolutely. Now think about what Trump has put into place. He put in place the One Big Beautiful Bill. There's additional tax incentives and tax cuts. People are going to get incredible refunds. He built the parallel economic system, bringing the tariff money into this country. And he removed the taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, taxes on Social Security. And he's letting everyone know that he might distribute a dividend and remove the income tax. Now, I do believe he'll probably use this as we get closer and closer to the midterms. But think about why he went after Iran right now and actually took over the Strait of Hormuz. Because once again, you're going to see oil start to flow, which again is going to lower the oil prices. And he started the event out early. So as we approach the summer, where people start to recognize and see what's going on, and as we enter the fall and people say, oh, look, the midterms are coming up, I better look at these people. People are going to see that fuel prices are way, way down. I got my refund. I feel good. The interest rates, because Trump is nominating the next Fed head, the interest rates are going to drop, which means more people can afford homes. He's deporting a lot of the illegals, which means wages are going up, rents are coming down, house prices are coming down. And if he throws on for good measure, removing the income tax for maybe people making under $100,000, I'm just throwing out a number there, what do you think that's going to do? Are people going to go, holy crap, this is incredible? So let's see. We remove the evil regime in Iran. We stop the drugs coming out of Venezuela. Trump is making the economy absolutely incredible. And the people are going to be looking at the economy going, this, I feel good. Factories are being built. A couple factories are already built. Jobs are all over the place. This is absolutely incredible. And I do believe in the end, Trump, just like always, is going to win over the people. And like we said, that this plan that Trump started a long time ago was to take back this country and take back the entire world. Because again, without the world, the deep state still lives on. So he had to destroy the deep state players all across the world. So this way they can never do us harm later on. And the plan is a single, unwavering military intelligence operation, I do believe orchestrated by Trump and the military. And basically, with the military, with his trusted people, he's able to dismantle the global cabal that has controlled governments, media, finance since 1913, and also cheat in the elections. Every apparent setback, scandal, election loss, or chaotic event is deliberate and necessary. It had to be this way to force a controlled collapse that exposes the endless cycle of lies, wars, inflation, oppression, surveillance. The operation uses information warfare and breadcrumbs, so the public awakens organically through the storm, triggering mass revelations, arrests, tribunals, and a great awakening ascension where humanity reclaims sovereignty and ends the repression forever. We were instructed never to act as prophets or resort to violence, but to research, stay calm, vote, disseminate truth, trust the timing, and focus on the mission, because the good guys have always been multiple steps ahead. In a game, the enemy cannot win. Remember, he's ending the lies. He's ending the endless wars, ending the endless inflation, the endless printing, the endless oppression, the endless subjugation, the endless surveillance. He's ending the endless. He's removing it all. That is what you're witnessing. People might say, hey, it's not a plan. He just got lucky at it. Or when you really look at what he's done and what we were told, it was a plan from the very, very beginning. And he's carrying that plan out and destroying the deep state players every step of the way. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.